Joined now by Senator Bill Cassidy, who is going to be in the Oval Office this afternoon with President Trump when he signs something, I guess is a bill to help with the opioid abuse crisis. Good morning, Senator. How are you?
I'm great, Tommy. How are you, man?
I'm well, thank you. Tell me what's going to happen in the Oval Office this afternoon.
The president will sign the Opioid Crisis Response Act of 2018.
Tell me about the post office and fentanyl coming in from China. And
well, right now they don't really track those packages. So if you have a site where you know it's coming from in China, you don't really have the ability to go back and undercover and find out where that is, uncover it, and have the Chinese go after it. But we do other stuff as well. For example, patients on Medicaid, it'll now extend the time that someone in Medicaid can go into treatment. As opposed to just 15 days, it will extend it to 30. 15 days is not adequate to both come off a drug and to go into rehabilitation. Arguably 30 could be longer, but nonetheless, it's better than 15.
Seems as though you're looking at it from both a criminal and a health standpoint.
You want to stop the supply and you want to decrease the demand. But you also, for example, we fund research to come up with a non-addictive source of pain medicine. One of the tragedies, people with true chronic pain are having a hard time getting their drugs because the folks who are abusing, if you will, they're getting caught up in the same net. If we can find a non-addictive way to treat this pain, that would be better. And so we also fund research for that.
In terms, Senator, and you mentioned earlier, was a bipartisan effort. Is this just an anomaly, or does it indicate maybe, at least in the Senate, y'all are getting more willing to work with each other?
There's actually been a lot of stuff that has happened on a bipartisan basis. We passed the Federal Aviation Administration bill, which had a lot of stuff for Louisiana, specifically for those folks who had flooded in the great floods of 2016. Again, a bipartisan effort. Another thing we just signed, that the president signed into law that I was one of the lead authors on, was eliminating the gag clauses whereby a pharmacist could not tell a patient it was cheaper to pay cash than to go through their insurance. And that, again, was bipartisan, signed into law. So, Tommy, the press likes to report the conflict, but there's actually some good things happening on a bipartisan basis.
Will that bill help local jurisdictions at all? In terms
Absolutely.
Tell me how.
One thing it does, it gives states and localities a better way to find out which docs are overprescribing and which patients are merely going from doctor to doctor to try and get more prescriptions. And so there's going to be a real aid for law enforcement in that, including, for example, if you are in Shreveport and you're seeing patients from Arkansas and Texas, right now you may or may not have access to those databases to tell you if the patient is going to a different doctor in Arkansas and another doctor in Texas. This will allow greater coordination for that. So it really helps local enforcement.
In terms of, as you mentioned earlier, patients with legitimate pain getting medicine that's not addictive or as addictive, do you know where the research stands on that? At any point in the research for this bill, did that come up?
Yeah, so there's actually a fellow at Tulane who's got a pill, a medicine that he's working on, again, that would stimulate the pain relief, but without incurring the other side effects, including addiction. So there's a lot of promise out there, but it needs to be brought to market. And so, again, we fund bringing more into development pipeline, but also those in development pipeline bringing them to market.
Some of the other things going on, obviously, the caravan. Is anything either the Senate or the House is going to get involved with, or is that strictly up to the president?
That's going to be a strictly presidential action. On the other hand, I took a trip to Guatemala probably about 2 or 3 months ago, and to Mexico, to talk to them both about illegal immigration, also about expanding trade. Can we as a port city have more trade with Mexico and Guatemala to kind of increase their economy, but increase our numbers of jobs and economy? But it's all about finding something to do in Guatemala that will keep people there, as well as keeping them from traversing here. It's a two-pronged effort, if you will, at least two prongs.
And when it comes to the murder of the Saudi journalist Khashoggi, one thing that I find to be a disconnect is that Vice President Pence yesterday talked about Middle Easterners, and the president did as well, being included in the caravan, and then we're so concerned with this Middle Eastern journalist who was a permanent resident of the United States being murdered, and I'm not justifying that, But at no point did anybody say, well, just because you're from the Middle East, that doesn't mean you're bad, and you're being in this caravan doesn't necessarily constitute a threat. Is there a disconnect there or not?
Well, I think what the president was saying, without fully elucidating, Mexico has reported that there were 4 ISIS members that they picked up coming across the border from Guatemala. So I think it's not just that you're Middle Easterner. Who cares if you're a Middle Easterner? It's if you're an ISIS member.
Right.
And that's what they were concerned about.
I got you. So there is intelligence from Mexico saying that they separated, arrested, whatever, 4 members of ISIS, did you say?
Yes. And Mexico, with the United States help, just put in a system to document everybody coming across their southern border, and they are finding people coming into their country across their southern border, people that Mexico does not want into Mexico. And so our hope is that we can intercept them in Mexico as opposed to the United States.
Anything else you want to add from D.C., Senator?
No, we're very pleased about passing this bill. Again, opioids is a scourge affecting our state and our communities, and we sure hope that this will make an impact.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. And next time you're in town, stop by. We'll sit for a while.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, sir. Senator Bill Cassidy.